Yo, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, East to West Reviews. Thank you so much for joining me today on another episode of Bad Batch, episode 10, Common Ground. Now, for everyone that's coming back, thank you so much again for always tuning in. I appreciate the support and the love. It means so much to me. And to everyone who's new here, thank you so much for even thinking of picking on my video. I can't thank you enough either. Hopefully you like what you see, enough to interact, comment, like, maybe even subscribe. But definitely let me know what you think in the comments down below. So this week was a different sort of episode than what we've usually gotten. It started with a very different opening than what we're very used to, whether it's just the crew doing whatever and wherever. Started off with complete strangers, so I kind of like that difference here. So we started off, of course, with the distress on the planet of Raxus, which later we find out to be a separatist allied planet. And the Empire is currently subjugating them, trying to bring them into the fold, like we've seen them doing in the background of some of these other planets that the Batch has been going to so far since the start of this series. And the Empire kind of mentions that this planet in particular has been a little difficult, that people are resisting, and it seems like they have a senator, a public official leader, who's also very against this occupation of the Empire. Of course, being separatists, I'm not surprised that they're so against this sort of occupation. They're very against the Republic and its control. So I would expect them to kind of keep the same energy going on here, which clearly they are. But again, I really appreciate this because this is another one of those moments where they're sort of showing us the Empire sort of bringing everyone onto their fold, onto their banner. And it's not something we've really gotten to see in any sort of Star Wars media outside of maybe a couple books and maybe a couple games, but not in the main canon. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we haven't seen too much of it in the main canon. So this is kind of a nice treat, a little bit of insight into that. So this whole episode sort of seems to be a rescue mission for the Separatist Senator Avi Sin, who, despite being a Separatist, and we know a lot about Separatists from our time in the Clone Wars and what they're capable of, he seems to be an actual decent man of his people. So my biasness towards him was later on completely changed. The title of this episode was called Common Grounds, and it didn't take me until a little bit in that I kind of realized where they were getting at with that, because of course, as the episode goes on from the beginning to the end, the crew themselves kind of find their own change of hearts when it comes toward a separatist leader like him. We even see a little bit of character growth from Echo here, who of course was very against helping out these separatists. At the end, when the senator was thinking about staying for his people, he himself came up to him and said, "Hey, you need to live to fight another day, so let's escape." And I kind of thought that was a good moment for him, especially being someone who saw so much action with Anakin Skywalker and General Kenobi. He saw definitely the full fronts of what the Separatists were capable of during the Clone Wars. So this whole sequence itself was actually a lot of fun, whether it was from the crew trying to make their way into the base, the crew trying to escape. It was a blast, honestly. I got to enjoy seeing the crew be themselves, and by that I mean a crew, for once without Omega. They were able to go in, execute a plan just like they normally would. No issues or anything really besides, maybe getting, tripping alarms, but that's normal for a lot of these guys. But it was kind of nice just to see them go in and get out just like clockwork. So that was kind of a treat to see. We haven't seen that in a while. Also, just to add, I also think that in this mission in particular, Omega wouldn't have had a chance to really help them out. Honestly, I think she might have even slowed them down in some cases. When the walker was down and they had to provide cover, I don't think she really would have been much help with the clones kind of closing in. I think maybe her danger would have put Hunter in a tight spot and maybe make him make some rash decisions. So I think it was a good chance to show her that she doesn't have to be a part of everything. But of course, we find out later on that she's still important and necessary. Overall, again, I thought this whole sequence was a lot of fun. Seeing the the walkers move really slow in this really slow paced car chase, the clones coming after them and them ditching them into that that sewer, which is actually kind of a really good move. I also got to give shout outs to the some of the other members of this episode because they were some of the most useful captives that they've come across. The robot turned out to be a complete boss, honestly, helping them out, distracting the clones, and the senator himself had a few good moves helping them escape. So yeah, shout out to them. They were definitely some helpful captives. But overall, escaping, I think that this is good because the senator could become a really good ally for these guys, and I'll tell you why in a little bit here. But going on to the other part of this episode, was really focused on Omega and her being left behind, and that in itself was also really enjoyable because we got to see a little bit of her by herself and a little bit of development there as well. And we know, of course, with this whole being left behind, she wasn't going to stay quiet. So it was definitely a treat in its own. So, even as a child, Omega's been through a lot so far, and she seems to be handling it very well. And that's pointed out by Wrecker early on in the episode, and I kind of agree with him. She is handling it very well, but I can also agree with Hunter as well as to why they need to tone it down for her. She's still a kid after all, and I'm sure Hunter doesn't want this to be a regular life for her. I'm sure he wants more for her, better for her. That she shouldn't have to live this life on the run, and also be a mercenary for hire. So I can also see his feelings as well, and also on Omega's end, I can really see why she was so upset with being left behind. Nobody wants to be seen as a burden. Nobody wants to be seen as the weak link. So I completely resonated with that, and she was, fully entitled to feel the way she did. With all of that, her moments with Sid in this episode are actually top tier. Some of the best, comedy moments from this series, in my opinion, at least. There were a couple harsh words here and there, but I think there were definitely some moments that she needed to hear. And I think they motivated her as well, too, to definitely get stronger and to try and find her own ways to help out the crew and not to be, the burden that she sometimes thinks she is. And one of those ways that she really tried to show herself, we find out that she has a mind for strategy. We see Sig playing with some of the bar patrons this popular game. If anyone can tell me the name of this game, I'd love to know because I've been seeing it since the original trilogy. I think even Han and Chewie were playing it on the Millennium Falcon. So I'm really curious to know what this game is. I'm assuming it's their own version of like chess or checkers. At least it seems to be. So if anyone can, let me know in the comments down below. But we see that Omega has a mind for this game, or at least a mind for strategy. And she really surprises Sid, who is able to capitalize on this, of course, and be like, hey, let's make some money. And that whole moment when she's like, hey, if you do, I'll give you 30%. Omega thinks to herself, 60? And of course, being the one who has to do all the work, Sid can't really disagree with Omega. So that was a really funny exchange, I thought, that right there. But when the Bad Batch comes back, they find a crowd in Sid's bar just watching, Omega beat this guy. And by the way, was that a Chiss she was up against? Because if that was a Chiss, then that's amazing. We know that they're a very intelligent very intelligent race of aliens. So if she was able to beat a Chiss in this game of strategy, then more props to her. She's definitely a Django clone because that's not an easy feat. But we find that through this, she's been able to pay off the debt of the batch. That's a lot of wins, or maybe they just bet a lot of money. I so she was definitely gambling and doing her thing over there. So respect to her for that, and we see even Sid gives respect to that. The crew sort of, well, Hunter, I should say, sort of questions, "Why are you doing this? You shouldn't be doing this." But Sid sticks up for her. Hey, she paid off your debt. Be nice to my friend. That's a high honor coming from Sid, I would say. But we see that Hunter he sees Omega tried her best. She wanted to do something nice for them. She wants to feel useful for the crew, and he gets that nod from Uncle Wrecker, saying to go talk to her. And we see Papa Hunter have his nice dad moment with Omega once again. Uh, you know, saying thank you, of course, in his own way, and they go off and play their own game. So I thought that was another nice moment between those two. I'm sure their relationship is going to continue to unfold with Wrecker as well. And I'm really curious where Hunter's story is going to end with all of this in Omega. I hope they have a happy ending. So overall, this was a very warming episode. I had some really good moments. I'm sure a lot of people are going to call this filler, but I think this was something that was kind of nice, something that was really needed. We had a lot of action these last few episodes, so this was a nice change of pace. And of course, something can always come from this. Just wait on it. So let's get into some predictions going on here. So there's not too much really to go off of from this episode, but there's a few things that of course, can look forward to. The Empire, being on this planet and sort of being hit by the Batch. There's possibilities that reports of this rogue group of clone-looking people can make its way to a number of people. Of course, there's Tarkin on Kamino and Crosshair as well. Of course, they're going to have to send special forces after these guys being hit that hard. So I wouldn't be surprised if that made its way around, or maybe even there's a chance that this could make its way to the Kaminoans, and then the Prime Minister could have a location as to where Omega may be or where the Batch may be, and that way they can send someone like Bane back after them, sort of bring them back into the story. The other possibilities, we have the Senator being rescued, possibly becoming an ally to the Batch. I know he's a separatist, and the Batch has their feelings about separatists that we've seen them display in this episode. Even though based on the episode's title, Common Ground, they sort of come to understand him, or maybe even respect him in a way towards the end. But who knows? Maybe he could become an ally. Maybe he could become someone who's influential in the start of the rebellion, possibly. And maybe that can be the where his story takes them. Maybe an introduction to some of these other leaders that are doing their thing around the galaxy right now. Because we know that people, like Saw Gerrera, Rex, etc. They're laying low, but they're also doing a lot at the same time. So it's possible this could be their introduction in. Also, just a note on that, we know that there have been a number of people who have been influencing the Batch to sort of pick a side in this whole thing going on. Of course, you've got people in the Empire hoping, that they would turn back to the Empire, maybe just eliminate them completely. But we also know that there's people like Rex and the sisters who want them to join their side, especially Rex. So I would really hope, that this comes about eventually. But it's possible the Senator can be one of those influencing voices that makes them pick that decision along the way. And my last prediction, I think Omega is going to start showing a little more of her hidden talents that she's shown in this last episode. Of course, now that it's revealed that she has the DNA of Jango Fett, she's honestly a complete clone almost. She has those skills that he possibly might have. She seems to have his intuition, his maybe even his mind. We see that she has a a superior mind for strategy. So I want to know what else she's really capable of if she does show more of these displays like of what Jango Fett's capable of. And I think that would really take her story to a whole new level if some of these things start to come about. With that, that's going to be all for me today, guys. Sorry it's a bit of a lighter week. Not too much really came from this episode, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. I'm still kind of riding that hype train from episode 9 because I know it's really going to continue to deliver as these episodes go on and possibly even as soon as next week. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe down below, or even dislike if you really feel like it. But either way, let me know what you think in the comments and all of your predictions going forward. But I'll see you guys next week for episode 11. Bye.